welcome you to our webinar on AI and patent translation, the opportunities, the risks, and best practices. Before we launch, just wanted to remind you that there is a question box where you can post your questions, any comments. We'll be having a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. And we will also be having a few polls along the way. So we'd be very grateful for your participation in these polls. And lastly, we will be sending you a recording of this presentation and a copy of the slides. So a brief introduction. I am a subject matter expert for patent services at Questel. My role is to help our clients through the patent lifecycle, advising on solutions ranging from translations through to international patent filing, annuities, IP admin support, recordals, to name just those few. I've been with Questel for 5.5 years now, and previously worked as Global Sales Director at a patent translation company. So I really have been in the front seat, experiencing the major changes that have impacted our industry over the last 30 years. And obviously with the advent of AI, things are moving very fast towards the future. I'm delighted to be joined by Sam today. So over to you, Sam, for a brief intro.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, everybody. Again, welcome. And we're super excited to have you all here with us this morning. My name is Sam Goldfarb. I am the Director of IP Program Management for Questel Translation Services. I've been with Questel for about 7.5 years now in various project management and program management roles. So I oversee our global translation project management teams, and I also work closely with clients and various internal departments here at Questel to drive new initiatives and optimize our processes and the different services we provide. So I'm very much looking forward to having the chance to speak with you today.
Super, thanks, Sam. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Questel, just a basic, a few slides. Questel is based out of Paris and was founded in the late 1970s. And today we offer a one-stop shop in all areas of IP and innovation, basically providing services and software to intellectual property and research and development professionals. We cover all types of IP and apply extremely high standards in all that we do. We're proud to serve some 20,000 clients today, based in 30 countries around the globe, so a real global footprint. And we are offering what we call a go-to platform for managing all of your IP. So our objective is to offer faster, more secure IP portfolio management. And you can see on the screen here some of our star products: Equinox, our IP management system. On the left, Orbit and Markify, which are our search, watch, and analysis platforms for patents and trademarks. A more recent member of the family, Qthena, which is an AI-assisted tool for IP productivity for both patents and trademarks. And then IP services at the bottom, where I sit, which includes all of the services to help you through the IP lifecycle. And talking of services, when it comes to patent and IP translations, we're very proud to be #1 worldwide for patent translation and international filing. Some 50,000 applications are managed by our team every year. That equates to over 100,000 patent translations for filing. A great team behind the scenes, very robust processes certified to ISO, and of course a lot of technology underpinning our workflow. More of that later. In addition to translations for filing, we also have a team dedicated to legal and other IP related translations, so typically patent litigation. So we're really offering an end-to-end service when it comes to patent and IP translation. So let's now delve into the topic, a hot topic today, which is how AI fits into patent translation. Before we look at the AI itself, we wanted to talk about how patent translation is very different from other kinds of translation. Well, first of all, global IP protection relies on precise translation. IP rights are only as strong as the documents filed. Patent claims, as you know, are legally binding text, and even a minor translation can weaken protection, cause disputes, or invalidate a filing in a foreign jurisdiction. So translation really does have to be very precise. Words have to be chosen with surgical precision to cover the invention broadly enough for protection, yet narrowly enough to withstand scrutiny. So as an example, translating comprising as consisting of in a patent claim may drastically change the scope of protection from open-ended to closed-ended, limiting enforceability and weakening the rights of the patent holder. We really do require expert translators, not only knowing the target language, but also understanding the technology underpinning the invention, and also understanding the legal framework of patent drafting. So these are not just technical documents, they define the enforceability of the invention in every jurisdiction. So it is a high stakes business. In parallel, we're seeing a growing number of international filings, which also are having to deal with more restricted budgets and increasing time pressures. So in a nutshell, patent translation is highly specialized, combining technical accuracy with legal precision, but it's also costly and time consuming, which is why AI looks so attractive. So how does AI fit into the future of patent translation? It can intervene in many ways, bringing cost savings with a lower per document translation cost. It can drive speed and efficiency, helping us to turn around those very urgent orders that we quite often receive, particularly important when you're filing a patent which is going to be in several jurisdictions at the same time. So it can help us in this respect. It can also help us with quality, ensuring consistency when our machines are trained on patent corpora, which they are. It can then help ensure that we're using consistent terminology in every text that we translate across all jurisdictions. And ultimately, it is providing support for our human experts, whether that be the translators, the revisers, or the production team. And it frees up time for our professionals to focus on the finer nuances of a patent, the legal and technical details. Before we go any further, we would love to have your input on where you see AI most useful in patent application translations. So I shall ask my colleague to start the poll.
So the question here, where do you see AI most useful in patent application translations? We have informational translations like office actions and prior art, formality translations such as UP 71.3 and maybe 97.1, filing translations such as direct and director Paris and PCT, or I'm concerned with the risk generally, but maybe my executives are asking for it. And we'll give everybody just a moment to respond. Then we'll take a look at the results. Got about half of the participants who have voted. So just give you a few more seconds here before we close out the poll and take a look. Okay, so overwhelming majority here, it looks like, is informational translations like office actions and prior art. I think that kind of aligns with some of our expectations, but also, you know, about the same number of responses for the other three options: formality translations, filing translations, and being concerned with the risk. So very interesting. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to answer there.
Yeah, that's great to have your input. Talking of risk, it's very important to be aware, to be aligned with the AI regulation landscape that we're seeing across the globe. And the regulations are very different depending on the jurisdictions of countries. We see very strong regulation in areas such as the EU and China. An opposite trend, different philosophy in the US, which is more in the spirit of deregulation. So ultimately, it is up to organizations themselves to define how they will be acting in with respect to AI adoption. And obviously at Questel, this is also a top priority, and Questel is aligned with the EU AI Act, which is one of the stricter regulations. Our thinking being that if we align with the strictest, then we can be operating with AI and be compliant in other areas of the world. It is an AI Act that is a risk-based model, which targets the higher risk AI usages. And these regulations are primarily targeted at the AI system providers themselves, the developers, and when it comes to the large language models that we use in our business, such as ChatGPT, they generally fit into what's called the general purpose AI category, or GPAI, and are less regulated than the higher risk usages. But the onus is really on the GPAI systems themselves, and they are under obligations regarding copyright, regarding how they document, how they build their systems, and training data transparency. That said, there are also obligations for the GPAI deployers, such as ourselves. And basically, it comes down to what we could call AI literacy, making sure that our employees understand AI, that we're respecting rules regarding copyright, the training of data, and also being transparent to our customers about how we're using this very powerful tool. So specifically the risk of using AI in translation. So the risk of solely relying, if you like, on the robot rather than bringing in the human. There is the complexity of patent language, both classic machine translations and the new generation of AI-powered models really struggle with the complexity of patent language. Patent sentences in applications are longer than in average text, and the longer the sentence, the more the machine struggles, the more it loses track of antecedents and references. The concept of scope is also something that AI may struggle with. It will learn patterns over time, but when you're authoring a patent, you aren't thinking about patterns. You're looking at what is the best scope for the invention, how broad you want to be, how narrow you want to be. And unfortunately, these AI systems struggle to interpret that. In terms of context, by nature, patents are novel, inventive, new concepts coming into play. AI is trained on former materials. It's not trained to think independently and to consider novel applications. It can to some degree, but is it truly going to understand the inventive nature of what we are presenting it? Technical limitations are also something we have to face with AI, and we're all pretty familiar with hallucinations, where the AI can introduce some totally false information or concept. There are some technological ways of overcoming this, but it's still a consideration that we need to keep in mind. Lastly, on the confidentiality side and risk to data, it's important to know which models are being deployed and how they're being deployed. Are you using an open and an on-premise private instance of a model, or a general type of model? And sometimes it's not even related to the training of data per se, how it works, but how the data is being transmitted back and forth, and making sure that data is secure throughout the entire life cycle of a task, and making sure that data isn't being retained somewhere it shouldn't be. So those are some of the key risks. And talking of risk, we will be opening a second poll. Do you think AI will change the perception of risk versus cost?
So the options here: yes, greater risk will be accepted to obtain greater savings. No, risk will remain the top consideration. Or other, AI will remove risk so it isn't a factor. So looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one. Interesting split so far, with about half of folks saying yes, greater risk will be accepted. Another half saying no, risk will remain the top consideration.
Yeah, it looks a pretty close call.
And we'll give you just a couple more seconds to get your votes in. Okay, so narrowly edging out, no, risk will remain the top consideration is our top response here, with 54% of the votes. But trailing closely behind, yes, greater risk will be accepted to obtain greater savings at 40%. Very low percent of answers for other. AI will remove risk so it isn't a factor. So it looks like we're pretty split in terms of what we think is going on here. So that's very interesting.
Yes, but it does appear that risk will remain the top consideration amongst our audience today. So we've talked a lot about the AI. What about the human connection, and how does the human intervene to lower that degree of risk? So our philosophy at Questel is that that AI is an integral part of the system, but it's not the system itself. And many of you have heard of the term human in the loop. At Questel, our focus is on human expertise in the loop, bringing in humans, i.e. our translators and revisers, to ensure the highest quality, because using the AI can certainly increase speed, drive efficiency, but it's basically the humans who are ensuring enforceability, ensuring that the translation of the IP rights are as accurate and precise as possible, and making sure that we're respecting the scope of the patent, ensuring enforceability. Hand in hand with the human role, we have rigorous, robust ISO processes that guarantee consistency and quality throughout the patent workflow, particularly the ISO 17100 certification, which requires human intervention throughout the translation workflow. It's also important, and coming back to data security and confidentiality, that we have systems in place to ensure that. And certainly at Questel, we have this ISO 27001 certification to make sure that your data is being protected, and confidentiality as well. So I've talked in very general terms about the opportunities of AI, the risks, and the human expertise in the loop philosophy at Questel. I would now like to hand over to Sam, who will go into some of the more finer details. So over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Caroline. So here we're actually going to take a quick step back from AI. We'll, of course, return to that very shortly. But what I'd like to focus on is what is the human element of translation at Questel. And what I want to highlight again is that we're very much committed to that human expertise in the loop approach. AI or not, you need translators that are experts in multiple areas. They need to be experts in the source and target languages, experts in the subject matter and science of the invention, and they need to be experts in patent language and patent conventions, meaning they need to understand things like scope and the difference between consists of and comprises, and how do you use indefinite and definite articles in patent applications, for example. So our linguists definitely have that expertise. We're working exclusively with vetted IP translators with advanced degrees and many years of experience. But in addition to that, and critically, I would say, beyond the language and subject matter and patent expertise, you need linguists who understand AI and how AI works, and who know how to use it to their advantage, who know where to look for its shortcomings. And that, again, is something that our translators are very much trained on. They have a great deal of experience with, and it's something that we as an organization are very comfortable with. Having the understanding, say, for if I'm a German translator, I know that AI struggles with antecedents, for example. Or if I'm translating into Japanese, say AI struggles with articles and subjects because of the nature of the language, and I know where to look for that. So that's really where the human expertise kicks in and is indispensable. Having that understanding of what to look for is really key. And then, of course, the other areas of technology, translation memory, glossaries, style guides, patent-trained deep neural machine translation, which we'll talk a bit more about on the next slide. That's all super important as well. But the main thing I want to emphasize here is that not only are our linguists experts as translators, but they're also experts in terms of how to use AI properly as a tool. They know when they need to step in and where to focus their attention and efforts, and they know how to use it to augment their performance and output. And then on the next slide,
we have a slight issue with the slides that don't want to move forward.
See if we can get this sorted.
Perhaps our colleague Laura can jump in here.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if we could just
Thanks,
move
Laura.
on to the next slide here. Thank you so much, Laura. And thank you everyone for your patience. So here we're going to dive a bit more into AI and machine translation and how that ties into the patent translations we're preparing at Questel. So there's been a lot of discussion in a bunch of different circles really about DNMT, deep neural machine translation, versus AI. What's the difference? Which is better? What's going on? And to begin to clear up some of those questions, I would just start by saying that here at Questel, we've been using AI for quite a long time, not generative AI, LLMs, but a form of AI nonetheless. We started using patent-trained DNMT engines all the way back in 2018. So clearly our team and our translators have a lot of experience and expertise with this technology. In a nutshell, DNMT is a system that uses multiple layers of neural networks to kind of mirror how the brain represents language and how it makes connections and stores information. But then, step in LLMs and the question comes up, what is the main difference, or what are the main differences between LLMs and Questel's DNMT solutions? And the way I would summarize that is by saying LLMs are very well educated in a very well-rounded way. They're trained on massive corpora of data, kind of run the gamut. They can do a lot of things. But an LLM is not necessarily an expert in patent translation. It's going to be a very good translator, certainly, and I think a lot of us have seen that, but it's not going to be an expert necessarily in IP. Whereas the machine translations that we currently use are trained specifically on patent applications, and that's really all they know or are good at. You give them a patent application and the output is quite good, but you give them something else like marketing material and it's not going to turn out as well. So that's really the difference. And with that in mind, right now, the DNMT quality is still considerably better than that of LLMs when it comes specifically to patent translations. But we realize that's going to change. There's a lot of technology out there in other areas where AI can be augmented. We're looking at, for example, ways to augment LLMs in real time to give them context and allow them to reference, for example, a client's translation memory or terminology preferences, style guides. The idea being you would give the LLM all this context and essentially create an IP translator out of it for that instance in that moment. It's not really a matter of training. It's more so focused on the implementation and handing that expertise to the LLM in the moment. And it also has the ancillary benefit of being much more secure in terms of data security versus handing an LLM a bunch of training data. So there's a lot more to come on that. It's definitely something we are continuing to research and develop. And we want to make sure that we're on the leading edge of that and using these systems to the best of their capabilities. And if we could pass to the next slide, please. So here, I'd just like to give an overview of our current perspective and plans for AI at Questel. Some of the translation-specific AI applications we're working with and researching. We've been doing a lot of work evaluating different use cases for AI, figuring out where it best fits into what we're doing and how we can use it responsibly and thoughtfully. And these are all solutions that we either have in place or are working to research and develop and deploy. So with respect to translation support, this is a bit what we were just getting into on the previous slide, looking at ways to boost LLM and machine translation output. In a nutshell, we're talking about providing the AI LLM with additional context and reference material that will add to and kind of focus its ability to translate in a tighter context. Also allowing the LLM to consider the entirety of a patent application as it translates rather than having more of a sentence by sentence or segment by segment view. In terms of quality evaluation, this is quite interesting. It involves using an AI tool to look at the output from machine translation or an AI LLM and say, based on how you've translated things in the past or based on what your revisers have modified historically, I feel that this translation is good, it's solid, or I feel that this translation requires a bit more human intervention. So basically, it's a screening process that will allow translators and revisers to focus their efforts on the areas that really need it the most, and it's proven quite effective. In terms of AI linguistic assistance, this is basically like a co-pilot or an interactive assistant for translators and revisers. A linguist could use this, for example, to look up related publications and from a given applicant and see how terms have been used to align consistency-wise. You could use this, for example, to summarize a patent before you even translate it, so you have a better idea of the context and a better understanding. This could also, of course, assist with things like proofreading and accuracy, consistency, providing real-time feedback. With the AI compliance check, we're talking about enhancing final human QC checks to ensure that style guides and formatting are respected. For example, you could have the AI check is this case formatted appropriately for a PCT filing in China? Or has this term been used consistently throughout the description of claims and claims? It's kind of a last safety net type of check, but a very beneficial use of AI nonetheless. And then finally, for the AI-assisted formatting, we're talking about automations that we're working on to prepare translations with the formatting that's required by different PTOs in different jurisdictions. This is, of course, a very important part of the process. If the translation isn't formatted correctly, it either won't be accepted or it will generate an office action down the road. So AI can help with that, both in terms of helping with some formatting related tasks up front, and then also, of course, that compliance check at the end. And with that, we will move into our third and last poll. So now that we've talked a bit about some different implementations of AI, we'd like to ask you, in your opinion, what percentage of the translation workload should AI represent versus human effort for patent application translations? So your options range from 0% humans only, please, all the way up to 100% no human involvement. And definitely very curious to see what everybody's thoughts are on this one. So the votes are coming in. It looks like it's pretty close, between 50% and 75%, with quite a small number of votes for only humans and no human involvement. I'll just give you guys a few more moments here. Okay, so coming in at the top of our poll here is 75% of the work should be allocated to AI. 43% of you voted for that. 50% of the work should be allocated to AI. That was the response from 37% of our voters. And then, yeah, moving down, it looks like there are significantly fewer votes for the extreme ranges of what we're proposing here. So we only had 2 votes for humans please and 2 votes for 100% no human involvement. So I guess it's pretty clear based on this that everyone is expecting that AI is really going to take more of an important role in translations moving forward. So very interesting. And if we can move along just to our next slide here. So here we have a fairly high-level overview of our standard translation workflow. As you can see, of course, there are multiple linguistic and quality controls baked in to ensure accuracy and filing readiness. We're both ISO 9001 and ISO 17100 certified. But rather than delving into the individual steps, which I'm sure you can get a pretty good understanding of from the flowchart here, I want to instead emphasize what most differentiates us here at Questel, which is really our thoughtful and cutting-edge use of AI for patent translations. When this slide was originally put together, we put the AI tag on all the processes and steps where AI was involved, and it was basically all of the processes, and it seemed a bit silly to leave it like that, so we decided to move it off to the side. But the point being there, the entire translation process is supported and augmented by AI. Again, as Caroline said, AI is not the system. For each one of these things, it's a different AI element. It's not one AI in the background running the show, it's humans. But those elements are there to support the humans that are involved and allow them to gain efficiencies and do their work with better quality and output. And while the process is very important, it's robust, it's tried, it's true, and we've gotten excellent reproducible quality by following this workflow. What I'd like to insist upon is how AI is used thoughtfully and in a targeted, deliberate way within the process. And we won't spend too much time here, but this does lead us nicely into the next slide, which is our technology stack. Perfect. So Here, I'd like to again highlight that integral connection between our expert linguists and the technology we're using here at Questel. We have our translation management tool at the bottom, which is called Savanta. This is where translation projects live and are managed, they're monitored and completed. This is a proprietary software that we've developed. We're constantly enhancing and building it out with new functionality and features. It's really the backbone or the foundation of everything we're doing. And Savanta is running all these other technologies you see on top of it. It's been designed to integrate seamlessly with them, with our translation memory, our DNMT engines, term bases, and so forth. And then layered on top of those technologies, we also have our AI systems, things like the AI quality evaluation and assistance that we've talked about. But critically, all of this from the foundational technology up to the top, it's really just there to support our translators and revisers. You'll notice, for example, that we don't have linguists off to the side in parentheses or as an asterisk. They are the thing at the top that everything else is designed to support. And again, because we believe so firmly that these language experts are indispensable for producing a premium quality patent translation for filing. And not only do you need to have the right tools, but you need to have the right linguists who know how to use those tools to their advantage and to boost their productivity and quality. And if we could pass to the next slide. Here, I'd just like to touch on the security side of things again. At Questel, we take any AI and honestly any technology implementation very seriously. All of our AI implementations go through a strict vetting process by our translation platforms team, our IT team, and require a sign-off from our information security team to ensure that data security is never compromised. So there are multiple verifications throughout the process to ensure that any system we're putting into place is secure and is going to protect our client's IP. Of course, as an IP company, we understand the necessity and the importance of that, and we understand how to do that. Our information security management system is ISO 27001 certified. ISO certifications, as you're aware, are basically a promise to you from a highly respected third-party organization that we do what we say we do. But what's really important to highlight, in my opinion, is the system and the philosophy behind that certification. We really have a company-wide focus on data security all the way from our CEO down. Employees like myself are trained every month on various elements of data security. It's an ongoing training we have. We also firmly believe in data isolation, so data remains completely isolated for each client, and there's no intermixing there. Beyond that, anytime we're using engines, they're of course always on premise, and we're making sure we're using dedicated models where we are the ones in control of the data transmission from start to finish. So confidentiality and security are really baked in. They're our focus. They're at the forefront of the thought process and implementation rather than being an afterthought. And if we could move on to the next slide. So if you are thinking of partnering with a provider using AI, which I would imagine many of you are, given the topic of today's webinar, there are absolutely certain best practices to bear in mind to ensure that risks are mitigated and avoided and potential benefits are maximized. So our belief is unequivocally that security is of paramount importance. You need to verify that the AI tools that you or your provider are using are strongly encrypted and secure to avoid unintentionally disclosing sensitive or proprietary data. This can be a big problem, by the way, with free tools online and public instances of general purpose AI tools. So next, and perhaps one of the most important things at this stage, is recognizing and acknowledging AI's limitations. AI is not a universal panacea. Used on its own at this point, it's really most appropriate for translations that are being used for informational purposes. And hand in hand with that is the need to set up your own internal SOPs that delineate when AI use is appropriate and when it's not. So big picture advice here would be to reserve AI for drafts, internal understanding, or bulk prior art, for example, where precision is not your main concern. And then to always rely on human expert checked translations for filings. And then, of course, we cannot stress enough, again, strict confidentiality and security processes in order to eliminate any unintended consequences down the road. On the next slide, we are going to take a look into, we could move to the next slide. So here, this is a quick little look into what ChatGPT had to say about the future of AI in patent translation when we prompted it. As we can see, in terms of where we're at now, AI is most appropriate for lower stakes situations where precision and accuracy are secondary, things like rough translations of prior art, early stages of patent drafting. But when AI is used, it still really needs human review. And this is very much in line with a lot of what we've been saying throughout the session about our human expertise in the loop approach. In time, however, the sense is clearly that AI will continue to improve and become a standard part of really any translation workflow. There will be AI integrations with IPMSs, and it will improve in terms of becoming more specialized and domain specific. Perhaps in as few as 7 years, AI will have absorbed much of the role of human translators today, and humans will be auditing AI translations for quality, accuracy, checking for things like omissions and hallucinations. But the real takeaway here is that the need for expert level human oversight isn't going away anytime soon. Even 15 years from now and beyond, the expectation is that human translators will still be needed for high stakes cases where a certain level of liability is involved. And that would seem to encompass a lot of scenarios involving patent and IP translations. And if we could quickly move to the next slide. So here we have Google Gemini's take on the same question, pretty similar, perhaps a little bit more concise. We can see that currently AI is being used to assist human translators in this hybrid model. Again, this is very much in line with our approach here at Questel. And then in the near future, beginning in 2026, we're expecting more domain-specific AI models and improvements in its handling of linguistic nuance. Then from 2041 on, AI may become more of a legal partner of sorts, where it's still relying on human expertise for oversight, but offering really more pragmatic, practical applications in translation and patent prosecution. So really similarly to ChatGPT here, Google Gemini's view is that the human element of translation is still crucial at this point in time and isn't going away anywhere anytime soon. And then one quick interesting thing to point out here is that AI, or Gemini in this particular instance, is still struggling with some fairly basic linguistic tasks. I don't know if anyone has noticed legal reasoning is missing an N, patent prosecution is missing an E. That near future date range is also a bit wonky. It doesn't seem to make sense with the long-term date range. We actually tried several times to prompt Gemini to correct these typos, and it ended up introducing some other errors in the graphic. But we thought it was an interesting example of the current limitations of these systems and a demonstration of why humans remain so vital. And with that, I will pass things back over to Caroline to cover some of our key takeaways and take us into the Q&A portion.
Sure. Thanks, Sam. Key takeaways from Questel. As we hope to have demonstrated, AI is a tool and not a magic bullet. It can help a lot, but the human in the loop aspect of our work is still critical. and is really the gold standard when it comes to filing quality patent translations. As the poll revealed, AI can be used for, pure AI can be used for informational purposes, but when it comes to protecting your IP rights in foreign jurisdictions, you really do want to rely on a partner who can offer you the efficiencies and cost savings that can be powered by AI, but equally a very competent team behind the screen and robust processes to ensure consistent quality. So we're using AI strategically and thoughtfully, and what we can look forward to in the future, as our friends over at ChatGPT and Gemini demonstrated, is ever improving AI in translation, but with some element of human oversight. So we can look forward to increased efficiency, cost and time savings, and increased integration of these new translation technologies and services into other IP dedicated tools and software. We are bringing in translations and foreign filing services into our own IP management systems so that our customers can, from the comfort and security of their IPMS, access these powerful new services. So all of that to look forward to. And with that, we will end our presentation and move to the Q&A session. So thank you very much for your time, for joining us today on this topic. We have actually quite a few questions. So what I suggest, Sam, is we run through some of them. We unfortunately won't have the time to reply to them all, but we will follow up with a copy of the presentation. We'll follow up with a copy of the recording and answers to all of the questions. So all of you who have tuned in today will certainly receive a copy. So first question, if your AI engines run on secure internal servers, what implication does that have for the use of freelancers? Is that one that you can take, Sam?
Sure. So the AI that we're talking about here, this is initially, when we're rolling this out, this would be in preparing the translations before they are shared, you know, with any sort of linguist. It's kind of a pre-processing step. So it doesn't necessarily have a huge implication on the work that may be sent to freelancers or handled in-house. This is kind of the first step in the translation workflow where we are looking at the translation memories, and if there are matches in there, that's what's going to be populated in the document on a first run through. If there aren't matches, then that's where the AI would kick in. So I think initially, in terms of what we're talking about with that LLM rollout at some point in the future, it's really more focused on the pre-processing before translators and revisers get involved.
Thanks, Sam. We also have a question where we've been asked to elaborate on the difference between what we call DNMT, Deep Neural Machine Translation, that we're currently deploying at Questel, and LLM translation. What, in a nutshell, are the key differences?
I'd be happy to take that one too. So we got into this a little bit in the presentation, but again, DNMT is an older technology. It's a precursor to the current LLM AIs that we're looking at. We've been using DNMT again for about 7-8 years at this point. Its architecture is kind of similar to an LLM, where there's encoding and decoding of information. The logistics are similar. Both are using neural networks, vectorized information. So the leap from DNMT to AI is not super different. But LLMs are trained on way more data than DNMT engines. We're talking about, you know, hundreds of billions of parameters in some of these models. The data that they're trained on, though, isn't domain specific the way our DNMT engines are. And the difference here is going to be going from engines that are tailored for a specific purpose, like patent translation, to these generic LLM models that are given the capability of context to refine themselves when they're working on these cases.
Great. Thanks for that, Sam. We have a next question on whether we're planning to offer different levels of translations depending on how much extra human effort is put into the quality. Yes, we are. I can take this question. We are offering different service levels depending on the use case. So as we hope to have explained over the last 45 minutes, is that we are deploying top premium quality for translations for filing purposes. So this would typically be your direct filings or PCT national phase entries. When it comes to translations that quality is required, but there may be less or no legal effect. I'm thinking of perhaps unitary patent filings, 71(3) claims, translations, or even for some of our customers, European patent validations, where there is no prosecution phase once the patent has been granted at the EPO. Yes, we do have a service level specific to that type of need or use case. We also have services that can be available on subscription, so typically pure AI for informational purposes. So yes, we do, and the idea being is that the more the human is in the loop for translation, but also revision, the costs are higher because there's more exposure to risk. But if it's to take the example of I don't know, a translation of prior art or even perhaps an office action, we can offer lower service levels that also match our clients' requirements in terms of budget. Maybe we do a couple more questions. Does Questel guarantee quality and accuracy? What happens if an error is detected post-filing? Sam, do you want to take this one, or shall I?
Yeah, I'll take it. So absolutely, for that premium filing ready translation offering, we do guarantee the quality and accuracy of those translations. When you're getting more into those automated AI options, if you're exploring something like that, the human intervention is not necessarily as thorough. It's not at the same level. And that's kind of the risk that is inherent to that sort of offering. That's the risk that that is born when you are making kind of that trade-off between, you know, cost and quality. However, I would say for, you know, the vast majority of the translations we were preparing, which are, you know, that premium filing ready quality level, if an error is detected post-filing, we would do a thorough internal investigation where we'll look back and see kind of, is this an objective error? Is this a stylistic or preferential change perhaps? Is this related to an error in the source text? So really we do a root cause analysis. We try to figure out what may have gone wrong and to verify that indeed it is you know, an objective mistake or not. And from that point, we would, you know, do the necessary things to get the translation corrected, refiled as necessary. We would, you know, cover those fees and associated charges as appropriate, depending on the outcome of that internal investigation.
Okay, we referenced our number of translators, some 5,000 today, and does that refer to in-house ones only or external translators? It's a combination of both. And I think, at least for today, I think we will close the question session and follow up on the others by email. And basically, yeah, now take the opportunity to thank you for joining us. We hope you found this presentation useful and interesting. And yeah, we look forward. AI is moving very fast. We no doubt be doing more webinars on this hot topic, and look forward to meeting you all next time. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody. And don't